If you didn't necessarily like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Magic expansion, I have to ask, does that mean you think the set was cowabungled? Hey, I'm Joey, welcome back to the channel where we've got commander, data, and dad jokes. Let's get EDH wrecked. A lot of us have a signature commander decks. You know, when you think of your buddy Sam, maybe you think of their Grothama deck, or when you think of your pal Gina, you know that she really loves to play Kalia. But every signature commander deck also kind of has a signature card within that deck. For instance, we all know that my ride or die is Baby Lasagna, Bavala Saga, and unquestionably the card I'm most excited to see in my hand every game is Mishra's Factory, or its associated brethren, because a card like Mishra's Factory can satisfy Baba's enormous appetite all by itself. But that begs the question, what are every other commander's signature cards in their typical decks? I'll actually have two cards to show you for each commander. One that, according to the data, is just their most played and likely their most unique card, the card that most other decks, especially decks of the same colors, just aren't likely to play as much but shows up the most frequently in their 99 according to the data. And the second card is one that's going to be a little bit more personal, a more editorialized pick, you could say, because let's be real, the signature card of a deck is not just about the data. Sometimes a top card doesn't fully capture all of the cool stuff that a commander is really capable of, the neat synergies that make them so fun to build around in the first place. So I'm going to add a little personal flair in here too. There's no exact science to the personal picks here. Sometimes I might go with a card that's really bombastic, kicks that commander into high gear, is really exciting to draw when you're playing that commander, or sometimes I might go with a more quintessential veggie, or a card that's strongly associated with that commander's style or their history. Or you know what, sometimes maybe I've even thrown a few curveballs in here, a couple of underplayed cards that I think should be those commander signature spells. Watch out for those. Also, I'm going to avoid any other legends from within each commander's 99 as well, even if those are showing up a whole lot in those commander decks. I just don't think it would be quite as interesting for me to be like, hey guys, here's Giada, and her signature card is Lyra Dawnbringer, which is also a really good angel commander in its own right. That wouldn't be quite as fun, so we're going to avoid any other legends, even if they're popular for those commanders. But aside from that, let's get to it. Let's take a closer look at which cards make these commanders really shine. What's the stuff that makes their decks so iconic? Let's start with the big guns. The Dragon is the #1 most popular commander right now. It needs no introduction. 45,000 players have already made this deck their home. According to the data, its most played card is, of course, Dragon Tempest, at a 77% inclusion rate. Giving haste to your dragons and also dealing extra damage or picking off pesky chump blockers? Excellent. That would be a great choice for this commander's signature card, but my personal nomination for Dragon's signature card is Hellkite Courser, which shows up in 54% of its decks. On turn 5, or maybe even sooner, this card can come down, cheat the Dragon into play for a brief moment, letting it attack and draw you cards, and then cheat another creature onto the field, and then let the Dragon return back to its roost. Dragon decks barely ever really need to get the commander in play, but this sneak attack dragon actually makes the commander get a really cool appearance a lot earlier on in the game, leaning not just into the cost reduction from eminence of this commander, but also amplifying some of the other things that make the Dragon so powerful too. So I'm picking this one as a card that makes this deck even more exciting than it already is. From there, let's go to the 3 color legends. In Esper, we have Y'shtola, a cat lady who will deal you damage as you cast big enough spells, and will draw you cards when you deal big enough damage. She's already a top 5 commander of all time, 36,000 lists, and that's an incredible feat in such a short amount of time. Her most played card in the data is Snuff Out at 76% inclusion, which can be cast for free by paying 4 life, setting her up perfectly to draw you a card at end of turn, while also giving you back some of that life with Y'shtola's Drain ability. As a personal nomination though, I've got to go with Ophidian Eye as a card that I associate most with Y'shtola decks. 3 mana triggers her damage threshold, and she does damage, not life loss. So that means that this aura will start drawing you a bunch more cards when you start casting even more spells. It's currently in 48% of Y'shtola decks, and the only reason that it's not higher is probably because this card got pricey. But that's why I have to associate Y'shtola with this one. This card spiked up in price because of commanders like her. So of course I've got to choose this one as what I would consider to be her signature move in-game. In Grixis, we've got Sauron the Dark Lord at rank number 8 with 31,000 decks, and clearly his text box is going for the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition treatment here. He does so many freaking things. Cycling your hand whenever the ring tempts you is especially cool though, so that's why Call of the Ring is his most played card, at 78% play rate in all of his decks. And listen, you might think that this is a cop-out, but I'm gonna go with the One Ring as my personal pick for his signature here. Like, how could I not, right? Yes, this card is incredibly busted, it's a game changer, it's so so expensive, but this is the commander that plays the One Ring at a higher rate than any other. Because, I mean, obviously, right? Other decks play the One Ring 52% or less of the time. Sauron is playing at 53% of the time. And yeah, this is the deck where I would really believe that you're playing this one not just because you're wanting your deck to be more powerful, but because you're really leaning into the flavor. If you told me that you had just gotten or you proxied a One Ring card because you're building a new deck, the first thing I would guess is that you might be building Sauron. Moving on to Jund, Hearthhole, the land sacrificing space station, is up next. 21,000 decks make this the number 40 most popular legend in the format. Technically, the Gitrog monster is the highest played card on this commander's page, but remember, I'm not allowing other legends as signatures here, so we get Splendid Reclamation instead, bringing back all of those lands that Hearthhole ate up. Genuinely, this is one of my all-time favorite cards. I love it, and 89% of Hearthhole decks seem to love it too. For a personal favorite in this deck, though, I mean, Zurin Orb is just a busted piece of cardboard. I'm happy to see this card in any lands deck, to be honest. Like, 72% of Hearthhole decks play it, but a lot of other lands decks use this too, let's not kid ourselves. So it's possible that this is too broad of a pick, but Zurin Orb free sacking your entire mana base to either get it all back with a Splendid Rec for a ton of landfall triggers, or if you stationed Hearthhole to be fully operational, then just sacrificing lands to trigger that 2 damage ability a whole bunch of times. Zurin Orb wins games. You'd never ever be sad to draw that card in this deck. Naya gives us Pantlaza, the Discovering Dinosaur. Pantlaza is a top 10 legend, spot number 7 overall, 31,000 decks to its name. If I sound surprised by that, it's because I am, but I'm so glad that it's making so many players so happy, you know? Regisaur Alpha is our most played non-legendary card in Pantlaza decks at 81% inclusion, and for good reason. I love the haste, love the extra bodies, love that it's a dinosaur that doesn't cost like 7 mana. There's really good mid-range stuff going on here. But to be honest, my pick is going to be Regal Behemoth, a monarch mana doubling creature that shows up in 58% of Pantlaza decks. Even if only because this commander represents a time to me when Regal Behemoth was finally given a new printing that officially acknowledged that this card had been errated to also be a dinosaur. Plus, the deck that Pantlaza's from is called Velociraptor, so a dinosaur that gives you even more mana just feels apt. Alright, up next, let's get ready to bumble! Miss Bumbleflower is the Bant hotness and the new queen of group hug. Rank number 12 is amazing. Let's be honest, all of her 30,000-ish decks punch so hard that you'd forget that she was ever giving any kind of hug at all. Don't be fooled, Miss Bumbleflower is diabolical. Wizard class is her most played card, showing up in 63% of her decks to help her hold on to all of those extra cards she keeps drawing. Plus, it buffs things up even more as she draws those cards once she's making moves to pivot into the late game. For my own choice though, I'm gonna go with Evolution Witness here. 35% of Bumbleflower decks are playing it, and I'm scared of all of them. Bumbleflower is just a house. Her creatures get so huge, and buffing this one up means that you will also start getting them back from the graveyard so people can really never set you behind too far. And that's the point where I, as an opponent, go, oh, that's really cool, but also, oh, I'm not winning this game. In Abzan, the most popular commander is the Necrobloom. It's got 23,000 decks, and it's rank number 27. Its most played card is Scoot Swarm, which has a 67% inclusion. A lands deck playing one of the best landfall win conditions? Yeah, this surprises no one. My personal pick for Necrobloom's iconic card is going to be one that actually only 38% of its players are using, and that's Springheart Nantuko. I'm picking this one because I just know that this card is associated with some combos, and I know that the Necrobloom is also associated with some combos. It is capable of being much more than just being a value engine. When a card like this is looming, I'm always a little on edge, wondering whether that deck is threatening to combo off next turn. And I think that this pick kind of captures that same energy that the Necrobloom also famously brings to the field. Land synergies that you already thought were good, but might be even more powerful than you expected. Now to Jeskai. Zinnia, the offspring bird who gets bigger for all of our little guys, is the most popular Jeskai commander right now. Rank 76, 16,000 decks, and its most played card is Agate Instigator, showing up in 74% of those decks. This little offspring double impact tremors type of Perforos card is really good for a deck that is trying to make this many little bodies. Like, I get it, I see you, I understand. But when I think of Zinnia, I think of the way that this commander interacts with and thrives off of a Storm of Souls, a sorcery that gets back all of your creatures from your graveyard, but turns them all into 1/1 flying spirits, which would normally be a downside. But Zinnia takes that downside and turns it into an upside because it cares about your creatures that have low base power. Get into it. This card is a great recovery piece in a whole lot of creature-based decks, to be honest, because a lot of decks won't care how tiny those creatures are, you're going to pump them up anyway. But it's especially remarkable here, and I recommend that more than just 48% of Zinnia decks give this one a shot. Our Sultai contestant is the Wise Mothman, giving mill and modifications for mutant kind. Mothman's rank is number 11 in the data, over 30,000 decks. I applaud you, Mr. Moth. Nuclear Fallout is its most played card, 84%. Giving up rad counters, it's a card from the precon. Of course it's going to have a high play rate here. It works perfect. If I can be honest, though, the card that I'm most interested in seeing in play with this commander is Mindcrank, which sits at 60%. This is a pretty iconic card for a lot of mill decks because of its combo potential, but it's also just a good value piece here. The rad counters that Mothman gives out cause mill, which allows Mothman to put a whole bunch of +1 counters on stuff, but rad counters also cause life loss, so then with Mindcrank, your opponents will have to mill a little bit more, and that will be another potential instance of Mothman getting to buff creatures up with counters again. I just love how this card makes that detail about rad counters matter a little more. It makes that aspect of them suddenly more meaningful than it just being cute ping damage during a game. Like, there are some other decks where I've seen a Mindcrank come around and then make someone mill like 15 or 20 cards or something, but that didn't actually end up having a huge material impact on the game because that person, it turned out, was never in real danger of milling out from an effect like that. But in Mothman, this is a card that gestures towards higher power if needed, but it also just has that little extra edge because of the unique interaction it has with rad counters. Also, yes, I know I could have picked Mesmeric Orb here because each mill trigger is going to be one at a time, but that's so good for so many decks out there, not just Mothman, and I don't know, I just thought the way rad counters work with Mindcrank is especially cute and more unique. Like, clearly I'm still geeking out about it, right? Anyway, we can move on from the Moth to the Mardu. Edgar Markov is our Dark Prince here. He's moved past even Atraxa and taken spot number 2 in the data overall, with 43,000 decks, almost 44,000 decks. That Eminence making all those vampire tokens, I mean, yeah, it's the stuff of legend. This is such a famously busted commander. Captivating Vampire is his most played card, 83%. A Vampire Lord in a Vampire deck, florals for spring, groundbreaking. But you know what? For my personal pick here, I'm going to go super left field and choose a card that's not even on Edgar Markov's page at all. A card that shows up in less than 1% of his decks, and that's Mercadia's frickin' Downfall. This is one of my earliest Challenge of Stats picks. This buff is so perfect for an aggro deck that has so many more bodies in play than should technically be allowed, and it's such a cool combat surprise too. It buffs up creatures for each non-basic land that the defending player has for just 3 mana, and in a format like this where people aren't playing nearly as many basics as they should, this is reliably a huge chunk of damage. When I think of Edgar, I just think of this spell. This is a tidal lock in my brain that I cannot separate. This is how I won a ton of games back in 2017 when I had an Edgar Markov deck put together. This one's probably more parts underrated than Signature. In fact, it's absolutely that, but I don't care. It's my personal pick, and it's just won me a whole bunch of games, so I don't care if it's underrated. I still think it's superb here. But also, hey, should I do a video about every commander's most underplayed or most underrated cards in the future too? Let me know down in the comments. Alright, our last top 3 color commander is from the Temur, and it's a dragon again, Miirym Sentinel Worm, rank 21. You know it, you love it, or you probably hate it, and all 26,000 of its decks in the database. Technically, Miirym's most played card is also Dragon Tempest, like we saw with the Dragon earlier, but I'll point out that its next highest card is Dragon Speaker Shaman at a 71% play rate, and for the sake of there being no duplicates in this video, I'll sub that in here. Especially because I do think that mana discount provided by Dragon Speaker Shaman matters a little bit more to Miirym than I think it does to the Dragon, who already provides its own mana discount. The Shaman is really good in both places, obviously, but I do think that Mirrym's potential to clone things makes double spelling 2 dragons on a single turn more impactful here in this deck, and that means that Miirym could just take slightly better advantage of the discounts that it doesn't naturally have access to like the Dragon does with its Eminence ability. Anyway, my personal pick here is going to end up being Scourge of Valkas. I mean, that or Terror of the Peaks. Like, extra damage for every dragon that you play, and you're going to get 2 of them? Doubling any dragon is bad news, but these are probably the most deadly things that you could see cloned by a Miirym. Especially because, like, as the opponent, you might start to think when you're playing against a Miirym deck that maybe you have things handled in the air. Like, you've got a bunch of Thopters so you can chump block or fog the combat. Like, you're gonna be safe, right? You could survive. And then this comes down and proves you dead wrong. If you're enjoying yourself so far and you want to see more videos just like this, hey, hitting the YouTube buttons helps out a whole lot. And if you would like to consider supporting over on Patreon too, patreon.com/EDHRecast, there's a bunch of really cool perks over there, from a fantastic Discord to patron shoutouts as well. So in honor of that, Michael Christopher, this patron shoutout is for you. Appreciate you so dang much for supporting the show. May you never get mana screwed, and may your top decks be fruitful. This episode is sponsored by Fabletics. Okay, we need to talk about this because it's kind of a big deal. Fabletics just dropped denim. Yeah, real denim, not like athleisure inspired, but actual structured, durable, premium feel denim. If you know Fabletics, you probably think of them for their performance gear. So seeing them step into denim is a serious level up. They have millions of loyal members who trust their fit. So seeing them bring that same innovation into denim is exciting. And this is a brand new drop. New styles, new washes, and sizes will not sit around forever. Whether you want something more structured or a little more flexible, you've got options. They've covered all the styles: straight, slim, baggy, even baggy utility. And to just give you a direct review here, Matt messaged us the other day literally saying that he just got Fabletic stuff and, I quote, "Holy crap, I've never had that kind of pant fit me this well." Pretty glowing review if you ask me. When you sign up as a new VIP with Fabletics, you can get denim for just $29, which is honestly kind of unheard of for that level of quality. From what I understand, this is launch pricing, so I would grab it while it's still at that rate. Fabletics already has incredible deals, and we've got an exclusive offer just for our listeners. Get $29 denim when you sign up as a new VIP. Just head to fabletics.com/EDHRec, take a quick style quiz, and be sure to select EDHRec when prompted to unlock your offer. That's fabletics.com/EDHRec. Dragonshield has sleeves with officially licensed magic art, from Fetchlands to the Dragon, and it has an upcoming line of guild sleeves that we're very excited about. Plus, they have custom sleeves. In fact, if you want to get custom EDHRec sleeves, very dark side of the moon, you can check out the link in the description below. And if you order from their store, use code EDHRec for a discount. Again, that's code EDHRec, all lowercase, for a discount on Dragonshield's superb sleeves. We begin the two color combos with Shorakai as the leading legend in Azorius colors. Rank 53, 19,000 dex. Does it surprise anyone else that the most popular Azorius legend is one of the least Azorius-y ones? We usually think of control and flying, not mechs in these colors, you know? I think it helped that this one broke the mold. Anyway, Unwinding Clock is its highest played card, 70%. Also, holy crap, when did that card become $20? Damn. And yeah, this card's incredible with Shorakai, especially if you have a mana rock or an artifact land in play to repeatedly untap and use its ability every single turn. As a personal entry here, I'm going to opt for the card Brilliant Restoration, which is only in 28% of Shorakai decks. This one brings back a bunch of artifacts and enchantments out of the graveyard all at once. And listen, I know, me picking a mass graveyard recursion spell, again, hardly original on my end. And yeah, when I built Shorakai, I did actually build it as an actual reanimator deck. I was reviving angels and sphinxes from the graveyard and stuff. You know what? Deck list link below. But that was just me. Like, the data shows that most folks are still building Shorakai as a vehicles deck, and it seems prudent to honor that here, but I still want to acknowledge that one of the things that makes Shorakai so potent isn't just its vehicles and artifact synergies, but the sheer card advantage that it generates, which includes not just the way that it sculpts your hand, but also the way that it can set up your graveyard for cool value plays too. This is probably the kind of thing that competitive Shorakai combo builds don't really need to bother with, but I still think it's just a neat piece for the folks who are playing vehicles who need a way to get them all back after, I don't know, a Bane of Progress hit play, and it's a nice card to use even if you've just been activating Shorakai a couple of times and you happen to have discarded a bunch of stuff that now you can get back. For Dimir, we've got Yuriko, the rank number 10 commander overall, one of the format's most immovable powerhouses, 30,000 decks in the database here. Ingenious Infiltrator is her most played card at 86%, and yeah, this is a great ninja for a great ninja deck. There are so many cards that I could pick for a personal fave on Yuriko, so many other ninjas or top deck manipulation cards like Sensei's Divining Top to help set her up for a huge damage trigger when your ninjas hit people, or Temporal Trespass is a high mana card that she plays a lot, for instance, and MDFC lands too. Like, those are the types of things that take advantage of high mana costs that you're never actually going to pay that much mana for, but that Yuriko will use to deal more damage if she sees them on top of her deck. But to be honest, I think we owe it to the enablers of this strategy that make it possible to get ninjutsuing in the first place. So the personal favorite I'm going to go with here is Gingerbrute, the little hasty guy who can make it so that he's only blockable by stuff with haste, which is often no one. It's in a very respectable 45% of Yuriko decks, and I picked this one over the other possible unblockable creatures because of the haste waste part specifically. If Yuriko decks do get set back by a board wipe or something, you'll often need to get another unblockable creature in play so that you can start ninjutsuing again. But that creature's going to have summoning sickness, and that one extra turn of delay can be a real pain. But Gingerbrute gets back to the races right away, and that's a very valuable surprise that I think Yuriko decks prize above all else. Next, red and black. Valgavoth is a curious one. Rakdos Punisher, eat your heart out. This commander gets really big and draws a lot of cards, but it also makes a lot of enemies when you're making people lose life on their own turns over and over. It's at rank 24, but it has 25,000 decks, and Cataract Parasite is in 92% of them. A perfect Parasite pairing here from a precon. Punishing card draw is a great way to get Valgavoth off to the races. My pick here will be a little bit weird though. I'm going with Revenge of Ravens. Listen, I know, it's only in 16% of Valgavoth decks, but to me, this card really hits upon the most important facet of Punisher decks, that they piss the whole table off. Like, if you were to just make someone lose 2 life on your own turn, people might overlook or forget about it, but Valgavoth is trying to make everyone lose life on their own turn, and I find the little nuisance of that action means that your opponents cannot wait to attack you right away. That's the Punisher problem. We can't just put a bunch of 5-mana Painful Quandary type of cards into play. We need some kind of deterrent or defenses against the inevitable aggression that this deck will very naturally draw. And Revenge of Ravens pings an opponent and gives you life for each creature that they send your way. And that is a very underrated piece of defense in that regard. Like, if someone tries to attack you with 5 2/2s, you don't take 10 damage, you take a total of 5, and so do they. If someone has infinite Scoot Swarms, all of those 1/1s just are not able to hit you at all. And even if they only send 1 creature at you, that means that you ping them once and Valgavoth will still draw you a card. When I think of Punisher as an opponent of it, I think of cards that put me into tough spots, things that force me to make difficult catch-22 choices. Revenge of Ravens does exactly that. I either don't hit you at all, buying you the time that you need to deploy more Punisher effects, or I do try to hit you and it hurts me anyway. A small speed bump goes a long, long way. Moving on, Bello is our Gruul commander, sitting atop the green-red heap with 23,000 decks to his name, as well as a very respectable title of the 26th most popular commander out there. And this legend still awes me at how freaking good it is. Like, this one often feels to me the way that a vehicle deck does. The auto animation and the associated card advantage from Bello makes him truly terrifying when he finally arrives on the field. His most played card is Berserker's Onslaught at 89%, which gives his attacking artifacts and enchantments double strike, including itself, and that's nuts. It truly supercharges the entire deck. I mean, come on, the double card draw triggers alone, right? But what I'll pick as a standout for Bello is asceticism. 56% of Bello players use it, and good, let's get that number higher, though. The whole charm of Bello is that he takes enchantments that we remember fondly, but maybe are ones that we now struggle to justify playing as the format has sped up a little bit over time, and Bello makes them super powerful again. Asceticism is exactly that, to a T. Like, as your opponent, to shut your deck off, I need to remove Bello from the field. And how can I do that when this protects him in 2 different ways, but also then it keeps hitting me? Powerhouse energies right here. You gotta hand it to him. Sithis is up next, one of those commanders that continues to make me say, why did they print this? She's really, really good. Although right now she is sitting outside of the top 100 at rank 127, commanding 13,000 decks, which honestly surprises me. I thought that she would be a little bit higher. Her top card is Enchantress's Presence at 89%. And that's like the signature card for all Enchantress decks. Drawing cards off of playing enchantments, yeah, it does the exact same thing that she herself does. It is going to draw you a fistful of cards. I gotta be honest though, the card that I chose, the thing that I personally associate Sithis with, is Aetherflux Reservoir. It's only in 16% of her decks. I get it. This is not what every Sithis deck uses, but I think that it captures the reality of the situation. Sithis is a storm deck. I don't expect Sithis to be passive and polite. I expect her to explode. She's churning through Enchantress triggers so quickly that you could end up decking yourself, and you're gaining life along the way. This commander is just 2 mana, and yet she's one of the biggest value engines ever. But value isn't victory. You need a win con, and Aetherflux Reservoir is a win con that Sithis will actually make amazing use out of, even if other Enchantress decks might be a little bit too shy to try it. Basically what I'm trying to say is that when I see a Sithis deck, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and the other shoe dropping probably takes the form of 50 damage to the face. Moving on to Orzhov, we've got Teysa Karlov, doubling all your death triggers. I'm honestly really glad to see that she's still at the top of the Black-White list. She's been keeping strong for a good long while now. About 19,000 dex, rank 54, good for her. Her top played card is Zulaport Cutthroat at 84%, which, I mean, yeah, of course. Sacrifice your creatures, Zulaport double pings each opponent. This is a great Aristocrats card in general, and Teysa supercharges it in a really cool way. I'm gonna throw my hat in for a Hallowed Spirit Keeper, though. This is basically a pinata type of card. When it dies, you get a bunch of spirit tokens equal to the stuff in your graveyard. It's in a very respectable 44% of Teysa decks, but I just feel like it's so quintessential to the Teysa experience, not just to have death triggers, but for creatures to replace themselves in ways that Teysa will also double, which will super flood your board with bodies. I think this card and the common Doomed Traveler probably served as one of the main inspirations for the whole afterlife mechanic that Teysa was designed for in the first place. But yeah, when I think of Teysa, I think of Aristocrats, but I also think of the creatures that provide you the fodder to make those pings able to occur. Next one's tough. It's Vivi Ornithir, a newer legend and one so famously busted that I don't think I even need to say any more about him. Rank 14, already leads almost 29,000 lists. His most played card is Curiosity, for similar reasons to what we saw with the Stola before. This aura doesn't care just about combat, but any damage. So when he's wearing this, casting non-creature spells will draw you a butt ton of cards. Picking a personal favorite signature card for Vivi is honestly kind of hard. I could go with Harmonic Prodigy because it doubles up your wizard triggers, but I don't know, I associate that card more with like Kuja decks than Vivi decks specifically. I'm tempted to pick a counterspell here since Vivi's average deck contains 11 of them, or maybe to pick a power buffer to supercharge his mana ability because, I mean, yeah, counterspells and power buffing, that is the type of thing that really greases the wheels of this deck and helps the commander to explode in the first place without just insta-dying from the enormous target that is on his back because of how famously dangerous he is. To be honest, though, I'm just going to lean into Vivi's reputation as the bad guy and go with Sigil of Sleep. 26% of his decks use it right now, and that should probably be higher. With the Sigil of Sleep on him, every time that he deals damage to you, you'll have to bounce a creature back to your hand. Vivi will proc this card so many times that it will well and truly clear the board, and that will keep this Spellslinger deck that has very few creatures in it to defend itself so safe from ever being attacked. This card in this deck is frankly a nightmare. But, I mean, it's Vivi. When you see it, you know that it's going to be a remove or die type of deck, so I just feel it's right to choose a card that captures that sense of a bonkers archenemy. Golgari is up next, my beloved. Lathril is the top legend here, one of the top legends of all time, in fact, with 30,000 decks giving her the rank number 9 in all of Commander. And unsurprisingly, 94% of Lathril decks are playing Elvish Archdruid, one of the best elf lords out there. The only question about that is frankly, why aren't the other 6% also playing it? Inquiring minds want to know. This might be a left field pick, this doesn't even show up on Lathril's page, but I'm gonna name Fallen Ideal for my own liking here. Fallen Ideal is a 3-mana aura that grants the enchanted creature flying and can sacrifice creatures to pump up whoever is wearing it. Lathril already has an evasive keyword, but Menace and Flying is pretty nutty, and Lathril is the queen of having tons more tokens than you know what to do with. So with Fallen Ideal, you can sacrifice a whole bunch of them, hit someone for bazillions of commander damage, and then get 2 elves back for each one that you sacrificed. It also doesn't go away. If Lathril dies, this aura will come back to your hand. I wanted to pick a black card here, not just some other green elf staple that other regular just green elf decks are going to be using too, and I think Fallen Ideal is suitable as a signature or iconic card for Lathril because it hits on one of the things that makes this commander so potentially nasty. Black offers the elf strategy card advantage, removal, sacrifice outlets even, and it offers elves a new use for tokens that green doesn't naturally lean into on its own. Basically, if you see this card in a Lathril deck, you know it's about to go down. Arabella is our top Boros legend, helming 18,000 decks and holding firm at rank 60 right now. She deals damage for all your tiny guys whenever she attacks, and fittingly, Welcoming Vampire, which draws cards from your tiny guys, is her top card at 64% inclusion. I love it, and I think I'm going to name Reconnaissance for my pick here. Reconnaissance is an enchantment that famously removes your creatures from combat whenever you need to, including after combat damage is already dealt, and is therefore one of the best combat securities that you can have to guarantee that you'll get attack triggers without risking your creatures' lives against potentially bigger blockers. That's so signature for Arabella. The point of this deck is that all your creatures are tiny, so cards that will make sure all of your creatures survive are clutch. If I was playing Arabella, this is one of the cards that I would hope I draw ASAP. Rounding out our 2-color commanders, we have Hawkball the Surging Soul, the green-blue merfolk commander whose precon is maybe one of the most perfect precons that's ever been created. I mean, almost 23,000 players seem to agree, making him rank 29 in the data. And maybe that was a lofty statement, but I don't know. His precon was really, really good out of the box. Like, he's so powerful. And my only criticism of it really is that the exploration triggers can be a little tedious to resolve. But yeah, he hits like a truck. Hawkball's highest non-legendary card in his deck, according to the data, is Master of the Pearl Trident at 94%. And my MVP in this deck would be Herald of Secret Streams at 93. A merfolk that also explores and also makes all of your stuff unblockable, you're just never going to be unhappy to see this one. Things are a little straightforward here, to be honest, merfolk in a merfolk deck, but I'd say that's probably just a testament to how powerful this commander is and how powerful these cards end up being here. Now we're on to the monocolor legends. Giada is our first entry, not just the top mono-white commander, but one of the top commanders in the whole format. She's approaching 30,000 decks, she's rank 13 overall. Her most played non-legendary card in the 99 is Righteous Valkyrie at 83% inclusion. This one gains life, it pumps you up, it fits the bill perfectly here. I'm tempted to mention Brizella here for my personal pick, but I promised no legendaries from within the 99, so instead I'm going to go with Battle Angels of Tyr at 51%. And to clarify, I actually don't even think this is a super amazing card. In fact, I'm actually kind of stunned by how expensive it is, because I think it's only okay in a lot of other decks. I think this card is a little bit worse than it initially reads as. But the reason it stands out to me here in a way that it doesn't stand out in some other decks is because of the way that Myriad interacts with Giada's ability. The copies come in pumped up with +1 counters. And no, the copies aren't going to stick around, I guess, but it is pretty awesome when you attack with the angels for 5 damage or whatever, and then 2 more of them come out and smack the other opponents for 9 damage each. Low-cost angels that hit surprisingly hard just feels quintessentially Giada to me. Urza will be our leading guy in mono blue, to the surprise of absolutely no one, rank 64 overall, 18,000 decks under his belt, and his most popular card is what else but Dramatic Reversal at 71%. It untaps your stuff, often for combo reasons, but for Urza, sometimes it might just be for mana reasons, since he can tap those pieces of metal for so much blue. You know what I'm going to end up picking as a signature move for Urza though? I'm throwing Bane of My Existence Tormod's Crypt into the ring here. It's a 0 mana artifact that can be used to exile someone's graveyard. But it can also just be a free Moxen for Urza. It's at 54% in his deck because, yeah, he loves little BS like this. Free mana that could also mess someone up, and messing someone up is just the worst case scenario. Maybe I'm just a little bit scarred because I just hate having my graveyard exiled, but yeah, this seems like a very Urza move, to have the justification to run a ton of niche silver bullets just like this one, because even if you're not using them, they will still help you out by just being free mana. Moving to mono black, Sephiroth has actually claimed the top spot in this category for now, ranked 32 with 22,000 decks. He's another strong Aristocrats legend, like we saw with Teysa Karlov. 80% of his decks are running Accursed Marauder to force everyone to sacrifice an important creature, and which will also trigger Sephiroth 4 times to force him to flip over and get that all-important permanent pinging emblem. Such a strong interaction. In terms of personal favorites though, I'm going to choose Malakir Rebirth, the MDFC land that, on its front half, will bring Sephiroth back into play if he were to die. This shows up in 39% of his deck so far, and frankly this card is great in a bunch of places, let's be real, but it is at its best in an Aristocrat's shell, especially one like this, because you are likely to have a sacrifice outlet on hand, so then in response to someone trying to exile your commander, you cast this spell on it, then sacrifice him, and immediately bring him back to the field, keeping your commander and fizzling their removal spell. Plus, bringing Sephiroth back means that he'll be on his front face again, so that you can transform him again and get another emblem. Truly, fill your Sephiroth decks with a bunch of cards like these. Malakir Rebirth is the best one of them, but you should definitely play a whole bunch more of them because that play pattern is so iconic for Sephiroth decks. Mono red, we've got Krenko Mob Boss, one of the top commanders of all time for years and years now, solidly ranked number 4 with 37,000 decks. Doubling goblins is good, who'da thunk? His top card is Goblin Warchief, a Goblin Lord, yeah, pretty straightforward there, 88% play rate. But for me, the thing that I'm afraid to see in a Krenko deck is Impact Tremors, which has an 84% play rate. I mean, any of those triggers, right? Agon Instigator, Perforos, all those types of effects. When you're making a ton of goblins and you just don't want to deal with other people's blockers, those on-entry damage damage effects mean that suddenly you don't even need to care about combat, as everyone starts to scramble desperately to find a removal spell, or else you will deal them 4 damage, then 8 damage, then 16, just from tapping your commander, not even from combat yet. And before you know it, the game is over on turn 6, all because of little incidental commons like this one. Finn the Fangbearer has been the top mono-green commander for a while now. I'd have expected elves or hydras at the top of mono-green, but no, a guy that turns Death Touch into poison is flavorful and strong. He's got 14,000 decks in the database and is rank 107 overall. His top card in the data at 79% is Ambush Viper, a simple flash Death Touch common. As a personal entry, I'm opting for Ronus' Monument here, which 41% of Finn decks are using so far. I think this card makes Finn so much scarier. It reduces the cost of your creatures, but also provides you a buff with Trample. And the combination of all of your creatures that have natural Death Touch now also having Trample is so brutal. That is some signature mono-green BS right there. Like, all the Finn decks that aren't using this one yet are like, oh, dang, that's rad. And everyone else who has to play against those decks now is probably like, shut up, Joey, don't give them more ideas. Card's rad. We're almost at the end. The representative for colorless decks is Julodok, rank 47 with over 20,000 decks. Kudos. Double cascading off of your big spells is excellent. Its highest non-legendary card is Eldrazi Temple, reducing your Eldrazi mana costs. Fair enough. But I mean, the signature card that I'm going to pick here is obviously All Is Dust. I mean, come on. Is it a card that you can play more than just here? Sure. But in this deck, is it a one-sided board wipe that also double cascades? Yeah. So how could I not pick this one? We're rounding things out with the 4-color combinations. The top entry for the Redless combination is, of course, Atraxa. She was the #1 commander for ages, but she is currently ranked number 3, with 40,000-ish decks to her name. Her most played non-legendary card in the 99 is Evolution Sage at 59%, which is honestly kind of crazy to me because, I don't know, that's just not what I personally think of when Atraxa comes up in a casual conversation, right? But then again, Atraxa is super hard to pin down a single signature card for because of her many, many, many diverse possible build paths. What else could show up at the top of her list other than an easy proliferate card like this, since it works for +1 counters and for planeswalkers and infect and energy and so on and so on. Like I said, it's hard to pick a single signature card for her, so this might feel like a bit of a cop-out, but to be honest, my personal pick for Atraxa will be Astral Cornucopia, which has a 45% rate on her page right now. Neutral ground, I know. I'm not picking any single specific build path for our girl here. I'm not staking a flag in the planeswalker or the infect camps for her or anything like that. And maybe that feels a little bit milquetoast, but also that is kind of why this one stands out to me. It's a beneficiary of proliferation that you would still consider using in her deck no matter which direction you've pointed her in. I think Astral Cornucopia is pretty mid most of the time, but one of the things that I do like about Atraxa is that she can even make a mana rock more interesting, and that is really what a signature card is all about, making cards that are usually only okay into cards that are pretty slick. Brea, our non-green artifact diva, queen of all things artifice, still ranked number 50 in the data, 20,000 decks, good for her. Her highest non-legendary cards are the artifact lands, like Seed of the Synod, which is boring, but also fair enough. We see 64% inclusion on cards like that in her deck. If you're not counting lands, though, then it would be Ethereum Sculptor, which reduces artifact costs, and that one's at 58%. So again, pretty quintessential stuff here. Predictable, but very fair. My pick for a signature card in a deck like this is Thought Monitor, 38%. When I think of artifact decks, this is what I think of. It's card draw with affinity, but on a body that artifacts are happy to manipulate. This is one of the cards that I am most excited to see whenever I'm playing around with metal strategies, and I think Brea herself would be very on board with that assessment. Like, if she's not the one who's going to be looped back and forth into play, she'd be pretty okay with Thought Monitor taking on that role instead. Yidris, the non-white legend who enables tons of Cascade and Chaos. He's only got 8,800 decks under his belt right now, at rank 236. How the mighty have fallen. Cascade has received a lot more support since Yidris was printed, so Averna and Maelstrom Wanderer are the highest cards on his page, but those are legends, so we're not picking those, which means that Apex Devastator is the highest one, at 49%. I can't co-sign that as a favorite pick, though. Yidris isn't just Cascade to me. I personally associate Yidris with like double strike equipment, like Fire Shrieker, so then every spell that you cast has multiple instances of Cascade. But I also know that Yidris Voltron is probably a pretty niche thing, so ultimately what I'm going to go with is Ancestral Vision here, currently at 36% on his page. Ancestral Vision is a card that you can rely on hitting in your deck because it costs 0 mana, so you can guarantee that you Cascade into it if you cast the right stuff. There are other 0 mana cards. Sometimes people build Hypergenesis Yidris, for instance, which is probably why Ancestral Vision has a lower count. If you're building a Hypergenesis type of deck, then you want to guarantee that that's the 0-mana spell you hit. I understand. This one just feels the most classic to me. Hitting someone with a Yidris, casting a 1-drop to definitely cascade into a 0-mana draw 3 spell just feels right. When I think of Yidris, when I think of Cascade, that's the type of cool stuff that comes to mind. For the non-black color combo, we have Aragorn in the lead spot at rank 44 with over 20,000 decks. And listen, basically all of the top cards on Aragorn's page are legendary creatures, fellow commanders from the Lord of the Rings set like Eowyn and Theoden. He's an excellent outfit for an all-flavor deck, he just is. So you gotta dig deep to find the top non-legendary card on his page, which ends up being Boros Charm at 43% inclusion, which is actually pretty fitting because the whole point of this deck is to be able to trigger those multicolored abilities, especially in surprise moments. Charms are a great direction for an Aragorn deck. Triggering those multiple color proc abilities all at once, you gotta love it. I'll personally pick Fabro Elder as my favorite card here though. It's in 37% of his decks, but girl, let's make it 100. This taps for extra mana based on the colors that you have, which is really good when you have your commander in play, but it's also really good beforehand to help you set him up for success too. Plus, it is multicolored itself to trigger his abilities if you cast it when he's already around. The charms are great payoffs, but I want to pay it forward to the things that enable this strategy too. And Fabro Elder very uniquely helps to enable what this deck is all about. Check, check, check. And lastly, Saskia, the non-blue combination's top commander. She's rank 307 right now with just 7,300 decks. She's the least popular of all of the commanders that we've talked about in this video. Her top card is Rhythm of the Wild at 47%. Haste or a +1 counter is pretty good in a whole lot of places, but yeah, this is an aggro deck. A card like this should be in this list. Having now reacquainted myself with what Saskia is up to nowadays, I'm going to throw my hat in for General's Enforcer here. It's a black-white 2-mana creature that makes legendary humans indestructible, which is admittedly only in 24% of her decks, but hear me out. Over time, Saskia has found herself as the leader of not just an aggro or beatdown deck, but of a legendary humans deck, facilitated by how many great legendary humans there are that all hit like a truck, that are all very aggro. It's very reminiscent of Aragorn's page in some ways, and that strategy is also facilitated by cards like this. General's Enforcer serves as a very helpful signpost to signify what it is that Saskia has adapted into in a world of Commander 10 years after she first saw print. She may be the least popular of all of the top commanders we've discussed, but it's cool to see the way that she's adapted and evolved. Good to see you, Saskia. Those are all of the top commanders from each color combination and their signature cards, either their most played cards or the one that I just personally think is the most fun and iconic for them, or maybe one that I think should be their signature card and that needs a little bit more love. This was crazy fun to do, so I've got to ask, would you like to see more videos like this? The signature card of each creature type, or the signature card of each archetype, or maybe every commander's most underrated card? Let me know what you think. If you would like to see more, I am super game for that. If you enjoyed this episode, then I have to warn you, all of the other videos on this channel are really good too. So you should probably just hit the YouTube buttons to make sure that you don't miss any of them. And maybe consider also supporting the channel over on Patreon too, if you'd like to join the family over there, including our Discord and all of that. But until next time, remember, EDH wreck your deck before you wreck your deck.